Believing in God's essence begins with understanding oneself and recognizing the truth. It's crucial to comprehend the concept of sin and its entry into the world. Essentially, sin entered through Satan, manifesting as a seed of distrust in Adam and Eve's hearts. This seed of doubt led them away from God and towards Satan. Upon consuming the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they entered a realm where everything was perceived through the lens of morality. Understanding this fundamental narrative facilitates acceptance of God's teachings and fosters unwavering faith in Him. In Genesis 3, the serpent, being more cunning than any other beast, approaches Eve and questions God's command regarding the trees in the garden. Eve responds by stating that they may eat from any tree, except the one bearing the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, as touching it would result in death. As the conversation unfolds, it becomes apparent that the serpent knows the exact words God spoke to Eve in Genesis 2. God's warning was that eating the fruit would surely lead to death. Yet Eve's expression differs slightly, implying uncertainty about the consequence. Upon hearing Eve's words, the serpent contradicts God's warning by asserting that they would not surely die, but instead gain knowledge like God. This manipulation aims to undermine God's authority and elevate Eve's perception of self. Eve's heart, initially aligned with God, gradually leans towards the serpent's deceitful words. This shift occurs naturally, without conscious effort on her part. The interaction between Eve and the serpent illustrates Satan's identity as a deceiver. His aim is to lead Eve away from God's truth by distorting His words. Despite Eve's initial alignment with God, Satan succeeds in swaying her heart towards his deception. To reorient one's heart towards God, acknowledging the deceitfulness of one's thoughts is crucial. This realization enables the heart to turn towards God, allowing for genuine faith and openness to His guidance. Adam and Eve were deceived by Satan, turning away from God and aligning their hearts with Him. So, what happens in the heart of humanity? And what does the Bible say about mankind? The Bible instructs us not to think too highly of ourselves, cautioning against placing undue importance on our thoughts and desires. While many believe their thoughts originate solely from within, the Bible teaches that sin entered humanity not through individual actions, but through Adam's disobedience, making all people sinners. Sin enslaves us, leading us away from God's intended path. However, Jesus Christ, through His sacrifice, offers liberation from sin. Adam and Eve's separation from God reflects humanity's tendency to distance themselves from Him, resulting in a lack of God's presence in our hearts. Without God, people rely solely on their own judgment of right and wrong, living in a constant cycle of moral decision-making. This reliance on moral dichotomy stems from the absence of God's guidance. Therefore, individuals without a connection to God will continue to navigate life based solely on their perception of good and evil until their death. In John, Jesus states that while He is from above, humanity is from beneath, emphasizing the stark contrast between His origin and ours. He distinguishes Himself from this world, asserting that we are of this world while He is not. The crucial disparity lies in the difference of understanding. What Jesus hears and what we hear are divergent. The ruler of this world is the devil. The god of this world is an evil spirit, and humans are inherently influenced by this world's evil. From birth to death, we are inclined to heed the devil's voice, as opposed to Jesus, who originates from above. Consequently, we live in sin, indulging in the desires of the flesh and dwelling in sinful thoughts until death. Jesus emphasizes that belief in Him as the Savior from sin is paramount. Otherwise, one will continue living in sin, serving the flesh until death. He speaks from what he has heard from God, while humanity, under the dominion of the devil, listens solely to his voice until death. In Genesis 3, Eve shifted her allegiance from God to the devil when she contemplated the knowledge of good and evil, thinking that eating the fruit would grant her wisdom. Initially aligned with God, her heart eventually succumbed to the influence of the devil. Consequently, upon consuming the fruit, they experienced spiritual death, severing their connection with God. When God questioned Adam about his nakedness, it wasn't inherent knowledge, but rather the serpent's deceit that led to their awareness. This deception, originating from the serpent, symbolizes humanity's inclination to heed the voice of evil. Throughout life's trials, people often realize their flawed nature and turn back to God for guidance. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more insights and future discussions.